Hello, and welcome to Virtual Investor Conferences. On behalf of OTC Markets, we're very pleased you joined the Small Cap Growth Conference. Our next presentation is from Envoy Medical. Please note you may submit questions for the presenter in the box to the left of the slides. At this point, I'm very pleased to welcome Brent Lucas. He's the Chief Executive Officer of Envoy Medical, which trades on Nasdaq under the symbol COCH. Welcome back, Brent.
Thank you. It's good to be here again, and thank you for everybody who's joining. I believe this is my third time talking to this audience, so very excited to be back. And hopefully you've now realized that Envoy Medical, what we say, we do. So we've made great progress with bringing our fully implanted cochlear implant through pivotal clinical trial. Very, very excited about the momentum going on there. And we continue to march towards hopefully bringing that product to market. So I know you probably hear from a lot of CEOs who will say their company is undervalued. I do believe Envoy Medical continues to be a diamond in the rough, and I hope more of you continue to look at this company, as I'm very optimistic about our future. Our ticker is COCH. We're listed on the Nasdaq. Please continue to follow us, and I think you're going to see over the next couple of years some very great announcements, very great milestones that we hope to achieve. This presentation is on our investor relations website. Feel free to pull it down. Obviously, there's forward-looking statements, and just a little bit about our where we're at market cap-wise, shares outstanding, and our trading volume, which can, over time, we've seen some pretty significant spikes, which pulls that average up quite a bit. When you think about Envoy Medical, one of the things I want you to think about is that we are a hearing health company. So we are a hearing health company, not a hearing aid company. We don't make hearing aids. I don't want to be a hearing aid company. You won't see us in that world. What we are is a hearing health company that makes hearing implants, transformative hearing implants. These are breakthrough technologies, and we are very excited about the possibility of how we can differentiate ourselves from what's currently on the market. We have two products. One is the Esteem device, which is a fully implanted active middle ear implant that has been on the market since 2010. Not a reimbursed product. We're working on reimbursement for that product, but commercially did not gain the traction because of that lack of reimbursement. In 2015, we pivoted using our very proprietary and very breakthrough technology of the sensor, our piezoelectric sensor. We are the only company on the planet right now that has a piezoelectric sensor that uses the ear to pick up sound. So we leverage the ear as essentially our microphone. We do not have an external microphone. We do not have an implanted microphone. We use the ear to pick up sound, and that sets us apart. So we took that sensor from our first product. We pivoted to a cochlear implant in 2015 when I took over as CEO, and now we are in a pivotal clinical trial with the Acclaim device. When you think about this investment opportunity, I think it is best for you to focus on the Acclaim, the cochlear implant market, and how Envoy Medical is positioning itself to differentiate and disrupt from the existing players in the market. In the United States, and we use United States numbers in our presentations because they're just a little bit easier for us to cite to. But obviously, hearing loss is global, so you can extrapolate numbers that are here in the US globally. But in the United States, we estimate that there's about 2.8 million people that could benefit from a cochlear implant, adults who could benefit from a cochlear implant. Of those 2.8 million, only about 5% have gotten cochlear implants over the last 30 or 40 years. We'll go into a little bit more of that on the next slide. But there is a massive unmet need of 95% of people who could get a cochlear implant who have not gotten one. And you have to ask yourself, well, why is that? My theory, and I think a lot of people share this, is traditional cochlear implants have this very large external component. Not a lot of people want to pursue it. And I think that's going to change once you see the market moving into fully implanted devices. It's very important for you to understand that Envoy Medical has positioned itself to differentiate our products from existing products today, but also the products of the future that are coming out from the competition. So we are not just different from what's on the market today. we are also positioning ourselves to be different from what's coming down the pipe from the competition. I think we are the company that is going to lead the transition from partially implanted cochlear implants to fully implanted cochlear implants. And I believe we have the best architecture for that transition. With the Esteem, we learned a lot about our sensor. So our sensor has essentially been a validated technology. That sensor we took from the Esteem and we're leveraging it with the Acclaim. So I think that's important for investors to understand that the sensor that we're really building this company around has been in existence for 20 plus years, has been in patients for 20 plus years with our Esteem. So it's a leverage technology that we know does well. We know how to build it. We know how to train surgeons to implant it. We know how to manufacture it. And I think that's very important when you think about a company like ours that's looking to disrupt the market. And this is a mature and concentrated market. There are three main players in the cochlear implant space, and they've been the same three players for about 30 years. And they've had about the same market share. So when you look at an up-and-coming company with what I believe is a better technology, a better mousetrap, you want to look at a closely concentrated market, and I believe there is that. So I think we have a very good opportunity to disrupt the current players and quickly gain market share to make Envoy Medical a legitimate company for the future. I want to go a little bit further into where I started on the market size. So again, there are about 2.8 million adults in the United States who could benefit from a cochlear implant. So these are people, what does that mean, benefit from a cochlear implant? These are people who no longer benefit enough from hearing aids. So these are people who are wearing hearing aids, well-fit hearing aids. Their audiologist agrees they're well-fit, but they still are not getting enough from their cochlear or from their hearing aid. Those people have now progressed to a level of severe to profound hearing loss where they need a cochlear implant. There's about 2.8 million adults in the United States that fall into that category. But again, only about 5% of people have actually gotten a cochlear implant. And cochlear implants that exist today have been proven to be safe and effective. They're PMA approved, they're on the market. So if they're proven to be safe and effective technologies, why have only 5% of the adults gotten them? And again, I want to bring it back to the idea that not a lot of people want to get a cochlear implant because of the very large externals. Not only are they very large and cumbersome, but they also have to be taken off at night. You don't sleep with these devices. You have to often take them off around water or if you're doing certain activities. And so when you take it off, when you take that external off, you're completely deaf. So our device will allow patients, if we get through our trial, which I believe we will, our device will allow patients not only to have the discretion of having an invisible hearing product 24/7, 365, but they will also be able to sleep through the night with their device on if they'd like. They'll be able to swim. Think about a single mother who needs to hear her kids here at night, or somebody that's in a weird hotel that they've never been in a new city and they want to hear an alarm if it goes off. Our patients with a fully implanted device have the opportunity to sort of live as though they do not have hearing loss, which is a great opportunity for these folks, and I believe will be the reason why so many people choose a fully implanted cochlear implant over the partially implanted cochlear implants. So we really are going to go after that 95% of the market that has essentially been untapped. It's unpenetrated, it's an unmet need, and we're going to go after that 95% of the market, and I think we have the product to do it. The pricing right now for traditional cochlear implants is about $25,000 in the United States based on Medicare data that we've seen. We think we'll be able to have a slight premium of about $30,000. So we anticipate this TAM to be about $84 billion. I will tell you, I think that's a relatively conservative number. One of the reasons I believe that is the 2.8 million number that we're using only assumes one ear, but about 30% of people get 2 ears. And then also the market is continuing to grow. People are aging. More people are losing their hearing loss as they live longer. More people are progressing into the cochlear implant hearing range. So this is a market that is not shrinking. It is getting larger, and we're very excited to be bringing a disruptive technology to it. This slide focuses on something that we all know, which is everybody knows somebody with hearing loss. Hearing loss is incredibly common. Some people have a little bit of hearing loss and are well suited from hearing aids, and other people have a significant portion of hearing loss and need a cochlear implant. But these are, this is a common health concern for a lot of people. And I draw your attention to the last bullet on this slide, which is the growing amount of evidence that is drawing a meaningful connection between untreated or undertreated hearing loss, meaning maybe you're just wearing hearing aids and you need to address your hearing more with something more. So untreated or undertreated hearing loss is being connected in a meaningful way to things like early cognitive decline, dementia, and things like diabetes, even falls that require hospital stays. So treating your hearing loss is something that can help you avoid other health concerns in the future. It can also help society lower overall healthcare costs as we move towards addressing something that we know is connected to other very expensive health concerns like dementia, for an example. So this slide is a little bit of a kindergarten slide. If you've seen my presentations before, you've seen me talk about this slide. But it really helps sort of frame where are cochlear implants in the hearing loss spectrum. So hearing aids, as I said, are great technologies that work very well for people with a little bit of hearing loss up until that moderate severe category. In our belief, once you've progressed beyond that severe line, you very often need a cochlear implant. So once you've gone from that moderately severe to severe, you sort of need to get a cochlear implant. Other companies even talk about that need starting earlier, but we'll talk about it progressing at the severe line. This is a chance where you've been wearing hearing aids. Your hearing aid is well fit, like I mentioned before, but it is not giving you enough information. So let me put it in a word score reference. In our clinical trial that we are running right now, to be a candidate for that, you need to do a preoperative hearing test. You will get a score on a word recognition score. To get into our trial, you need between 0 and 40% word recognition scores with your hearing aid in. So you've had your hearing aid in, and you're still getting between 0 and 40% of the scores. So these are people who, even though they have a hearing aid, it's not working effectively for them. They need a solution, and cochlear implants are that solution of last resort. And so once you've progressed into the cochlear implant candidacy, you have a few choices. They're just choices between the manufacturer, right? Cochlear implants essentially work in a very similar manner, which is they deliver electrical stimulation to the cochlea. Now you're picking between 3 manufacturers today. There's 3 manufacturers. And now Envoy Medical is going to come in and we're going to say, you have a choice. You can either get the partially implanted devices with the stuff on the side of your head that you have to take off in certain situations that requires you charge or change the battery once every day or once every 2 days. Or you can get this new fully implanted device. This fully implanted device has a battery that lasts on average right now in our trial about 5 days. By the way, we think we can optimize that to be about 10 days in the future. This doesn't require that you wear any externals, and it provides essentially the same level of hearing benefit that the other companies have described in the papers and meta-analyses of their technologies. Which one are you going to pick? Are you going to pick the one with all the externals on the side of your head that everyone knows, that can see, that can fall off and break? And by the way, when it falls off and break, it costs you about $8,000 to replace. Or are you going to get the fully implanted one, where you can be discreet? You can choose to tell people if you have it, but you don't have to. By the way, that fully implanted device has the flexibility to allow you to use your ear to pick up sound. You don't have to rely on a subdermal microphone or an external microphone. So we think we've designed the better mousetrap, and we're very excited to bring it to market, hopefully, if we get through our pivotal clinical study. So traditional cochlear implants, if you're not familiar, this is a picture of what they look like. They have an external component and an internal component. The external component contains microphones, a battery, a sound processor, and it is tethered to a coil that has a magnet inside of it that attaches to another magnet on the inside. The magnet on the inside then has a coil around it that captures the signal and brings it to the electrode array that is implanted in your cochlea. So this is what a traditional cochlear implant looks like. It has a magnet that is on both the inside and the outside, and so that's what attaches it to your head. By the way, it's not using the ear to pick up sound. It looks like it's using the ear, but it is not. It's only using the ear to hold it, essentially, like a Christmas tree ornament. So it is not doing that. It's not using your ear. What a normal hearing pathway looks like while we have this slide up is below. A normal hearing pathway, you have sounds vibrating externally, moving air molecules, essentially, or particles, I'm sorry. And then that moves down the ear canal, vibrates your eardrum to engage the ossicles. The ossicles then bring that vibration to the cochlea, where the cochlea has hearing hair cells within it. Those hearing hair cells pick up the signal and send it off to the hearing nerve, which goes to the brain, and the brain interprets the signal. So the natural hearing pathway uses your ear, right? We all know that. It uses both ears to capture sound from the environment and bring that signal to your brain. What the cochlear implant does, and these partially implanted cochlear implant does, is it picks up the sound with that microphone and it goes to the processor, which sends the signal across the skin to the internal coil and then goes to the electrode array. So we looked at this, and here's a couple of other pictures, but in the interest of time, I'm going to move forward. I think it's pretty obvious kind of what they look like. They're very similar form factor across all the manufacturers, different colors, maybe a different profile, but essentially they look and feel essentially the same. So what we did is we took what we believe is an efficacious therapy, which is cochlear implants. Delivering electricity to the cochlea has been something that people have known allows the perception of sound since the scientist, not the company, but the scientist Tesla first talked about it hundreds of years ago, right? So this is something that has been around. People have known if you deliver electricity to the cochlea, it can be perceived as sound. And so we took what was a therapy that has been accepted and adopted, cochlear implants. And I think they're wonderful technologies. We've taken that, but we got rid of all the problems that people don't like, which is they don't like the externals. So we took it and put it internally. We use our sensor. Our sensor is in the circle in this picture. It's a piezoelectric device. It's put on the middle ear to pick up the signals that come off the incus bone and send the signal to the processor, which then goes to the electrode array. So, and then we also put the battery in the chest. We put the battery in the chest that's connected with a power data lead to the processor, and that also removes the need to have anything externally as well. We are currently in FDA trials, as I mentioned. We have 2 active trials. One is an early feasibility study that started in 2022 that had 3 patients. They were implanted at Mayo Clinic. All 3 patients still have their device. All 3 patients report being extremely happy that they chose the Acclaim device. By the way, some of the other feasibility studies for the other manufacturers with their Tiki cannot say that all of their patients still have their Tiki device. We can say that our patients, all 3 patients from our feasibility study, still have their device. We are now in a pivotal clinical study that started in the end of, or we got the IDE at the end of 2024. We implanted 10 patients in the beginning of 25. Those first 10 patients were part of what we call the first stage. We then had to ask the FDA if we could get expansion to the second stage. We got that expansion approval in October, and began to immediately enroll the second stage. We are currently actively enrolling that second stage, and as of today, are about 40 patients through that enrollment. We have another 16 to go, and I believe we have line of sight to being through enrollment by the end of March. We have a very good patent portfolio, about 40 US patents, 46 international patents. But I would also tell you, in the medical device space, especially in Class 3 medical devices, the regulatory pathway is as important of a barrier as your intellectual property. We are a PMA product. Anybody that wants to come after us is also going to have to go through the PMA process. This is not a 510K kind of situation where somebody can make a Me Too product and try to come out. They're going to have to go through the same regulatory process that we've had to go through, just as we are going through the same regulatory process that prior cochlear implants went through. So again, I think it's relatively obvious the benefits of a fully implanted cochlear implant: discreet, you can wear it all day, 24/7, more environments and activities, more conducive to different types of lifestyles, right? So if you want to go golfing in the rain, don't worry about our device. You'd have to take off the other one. You might ruin it. If you're playing with your grandchild, in the pool, you can do that with our device. It's essentially waterproof. You might have to take off the other one or you risk damaging it. So it's just really more conducive to a day-to-day lifestyle, in our opinion. And we're very excited to hopefully get some more patient-reported outcomes to hear anecdotal stories from patients through this process. And if you're interested, there are video testimonials from two of our early feasibility patients that can be found on our YouTube page as well as on the internet and other places. One of the most important things that I do want to highlight about our device, and it's critically important, is that the battery in the chest was done intentionally because cochlear implants use a lot of energy. Cochlear implants use a lot of energy because they're essentially neurostimulators that are firing all day, right? You're hearing all day, so the neurostimulator is essentially firing all day. Putting a battery in the chest allows us to have a larger capacity battery. If we put the battery in the head, we'd have to have a smaller battery, which would require more frequent charging. In addition, having the battery in the chest allows us to be modular, meaning we can unplug that battery and give you a new one once the battery capacity has eventually started to diminish. Because rechargeable batteries, no matter what battery you're talking about, no matter what technology, rechargeable batteries have a capacity initially, and then that capacity starts to diminish. Think about your iPhone or your Android, whatever phone you're using. As you recharge it, as you've gone through that 3-year window, it starts to diminish, right? So battery in the chest allows us to have a larger capacity battery. Because of that, our patients currently in the trial are reporting between 4 and 5 days between full discharge to charge. And then that would also translate to that capacity should be in a pretty good state until about 10, 12 years before it starts to loosen the capacity. If we put the battery in the head, like two of our competitors have chosen to do, if you put the battery in the head, you will have to charge probably once a day. If not right away, you will eventually absolutely need to charge once a day, maybe even multiple times a day, because the battery capacity will start to diminish after you get about 1,000 charge cycles. So it's very important if you're researching the differences between the totally implanted cochlear implants that are trying to come to market, that you look at where the battery is and you understand the choices that came with putting the battery where it did. Our battery is in the chest so that patients can have an easier time replacing it when they need to. We can unplug it and plug a new one back in. You don't have to have the entire system explanted. And it also should allow our patients more time between recharges, which we believe will only enhance the potential benefits of this device and hopefully bring quality of life to them. Again, we talked about this. I'm running out of little time, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it. But our sensor from the Esteem is leveraged into the Acclaim. So this is a technology that we know and understand and that we have clinical experience with our Esteem device. When we look at, and you might say, wow, this seems pretty obvious that eventually fully implanted cochlear implants are going to be the future of cochlear implants. I mean, it's an obvious solution, right? We're not geniuses for thinking of it. Where are the other companies? So there's 3 other companies that are working on, there's 3 other companies in the cochlear implant space. 2 of them have publicly disclosed that they are in feasibility studies for what they call a totally implanted cochlear implant. Our best information is that they only remain in those feasibility studies and they do not have an IDE for an FDA study yet. That's our best information that we have. We are, as I've said, a breakthrough device designated product. So we've already received the breakthrough device designation from FDA. We've already got an IDE for our EFS study, early feasibility study that we've done, 3 patients at Mayo Clinic, and we're 3 years beyond that. So our patients have had the device for 3 years. And then we also have an IDE for a pivotal clinical study, which we are about 3/4 enrolled at this point. So we believe we are the furthest along in this race. And we also, again, believe that we have the better architecture for a totally implanted cochlear implant. Looking at the devices that are being discussed in the market today, it's very important, as I said in the early part of this story, it's very important that you look at the differentiation, not just of the technologies today, but the differentiation that we have from the technologies of the future. And a big part of that is going to come down to, we use the sensor and we have the battery pack in the chest. So we believe we have the better product, even compared to some of the devices that are being worked on. So when you look at the public statement, these are only from public statements. I have no non-public information about the cochlear implants being worked on by Cochlear and Med-El. But these are from public statements, public papers that have been written. You can see the design of the the Tiki from Cochlear, and the Tiki from Medel. Three very important differences that I want to bring up, highlight before we move on. They have a battery in the head, so the rechargeable battery is in the head, meaning it has a smaller capacity. It appears from everything that we've heard and read that that battery is hardwired into the can and is not modular. So it cannot be replaced without explanting the entire system. So you have to ask yourself, if you had a battery in your cochlear implant that would eventually have a capacity diminishing, so you would need to recharge it multiple times a day, or a technology like the Acclaim that had a modular battery in the chest, where once the capacity started to diminish, you could just go through a simple procedure to have the battery replaced, not the entire system. Again, which one would you pick? Both products also use a subcutaneous microphone. So instead of using the ear to pick up sound with the sensor, they use a subcutaneous microphone that's underneath the skin, which has, so it doesn't leverage the ear pathway, the natural pathway. It again picks up sound underneath the skin. And then both of these products also continue to have magnets. So both of these products require that the external, that both the internal component has a magnet so that it can use an external charger or an external device should you no longer be able to use the invisible hearing. I'm very comfortable, very bullish saying that I believe we've designed the better version of a fully implanted cochlear implant. And I'm very excited about taking this to market because I believe that patients will choose the one that is better suited for their lifestyle. I'm running out of time. Here's you can always see this presentation on our website. Here's the main players. Obviously, we have a very large competitor in Cochlear. We're in a pivotal study. We have to do 56 patients. I noted that we are about 3/4 of the way through that, and I hope that we'll be through enrollment by the end of March. Here are the 7 sites that are involved. So we're not working with just anybody. We're working with some very, very well-respected cochlear implant programs. And here's our timeline. So when you think about our timeline, look out where we're headed. We're looking to get through enrollment in March. We have to follow those patients for 12 months. We will submit to PMA, hopefully submit that PMA application in Q2 of 2027. And then hopefully we can get FDA approval by the end of 27. That is our goal. That is what we're seeking to do. In the interest of time, I'm not going to run you through the investor presentation, not talk about our commercialization strategy. I'm trying to find a couple of questions about the surgical process. It's important to know all cochlear implants require surgery. Regardless of the manufacturer, regardless of whether it's a partially implanted or a fully implanted cochlear implant, you need to go through a surgical procedure. That surgical procedure is done under general anesthetic. They do what's called a mastoidectomy to drill out some bone here to access the cochlea. The traditional cochlear implant in the hands of some of the best surgeons are going to do skin to skin, are going to do a traditional cochlear implant in about 60 to 75 minutes. With our device, it'll probably be 2 hours to 2 hours and 25 minutes. So about twice as long in the OR. But the patient essentially doesn't know that, right? Because they're under general anesthetic. And we anticipate that the adverse events or potential risks are very similar between the technologies because the base of the surgery is going to be essentially the same between the manufacturers and the different type of devices. Sorry, there's a lot of questions here. I would say there's some questions about, why is the company undervalued? What are you doing to tell more people about it? Talk a little bit about the Nasdaq compliance issue. I would just say that we are in a situation that I'm very optimistic about. We are looking to continue to educate folks, and the more people I'm talking to, the more people that are becoming aware of this opportunity, the more people are getting excited about it. I do believe that we've just gotten some downward pressure because we are a small cap company. And once we are able to hit some more milestones, potentially bring in some additional capital, smart capital, I think I'm hopeful, I'm optimistic that we're going to be able to really turn this around in a very positive direction. So I've run out of time. Please ask for a one-on-one presentation or a one-on-one meeting if you'd like to discuss If you've asked a question, I'm supposed to get a list of that, and hopefully I'll be able to reach out to you. But please feel free to contact me any way you can. Thank you.